Welcome to Behind the Muscle podcast. Today's guest is an NPC bodybuilder. Today's guest is Chris Knox. Chris, I want to welcome you to the podcast, man.
Thanks for having me, Quinn.
Yeah, for sure, Chris. So I kind of like to start each conversation off, each podcast off by asking all my guests the same two questions just to kind of keep the continuity. So I would like to know, who are a few of your favorite bodybuilders, Chris, of all time?
Like what got me into it was Arnold Schwarzenegger as a kid because that's who I idolized on the movies growing up. But what really after I transitioned from college football, I saw Phil Heath in 2011 on stage, and Phil Heath became my favorite because it looked so cartoonish to me. So I would say Phil, Arnold, Lee Haney, say Flex Wheeler, and that's probably my top three before.
Yeah, awesome.
Low cards.
Can't go wrong with those four. That's for sure, man.
Yeah.
So, okay. So why don't you tell us, Chris, if you don't mind, when did you start lifting weights? And then why did you start lifting weights at that specific age?
I think I started, I was like 12 or 13 years old. And I remember I was a little chubby kid and I got picked with quite a lot. And my oldest brother found some equipment in the trash and he put it together for me and started working out. He kind of gave me a diet. And from 13 to I'm now 31, I've been training somewhat consistently since then. But, starting out was just chest and arms all day and primarily just to get in shape for girls. Now my reasoning behind training is not for that anyway. So
cool. Well, I think a lot of us probably at that age, started lifting weights. Just, you want to look good for the girls and all that stuff. There's definitely nothing wrong with that. So, okay. So I kind of like to use that last question, Chris, just to transition into my guests, their upbringing, their childhood. It's always fun to kind of see where coaches and athletes kind of came from, the backstory behind the muscle, so to speak. Right. So where did you actually grow up? You already mentioned college football, so I'm assuming sports was a big part of your upbringing. So talk about that. Talk about maybe some of the highlights or anything that really impacted you when you were younger. Bring us up to about high school, and then I've got some questions to move us on from there.
Okay. Well, once I started training, it was like an overnight transformation. 13 going on to like 15, like I hit puberty, and like I woke up and it was like literally like a superhero. I was shredded, and I never really played sports. And I remember the football coach in middle school. He actually came to my mom and convinced her I should play football. I didn't want to do it. And finally, I went to practice and we had a race. And I was faster than all the eighth graders as a seventh grader, and I was the fastest guy in school. And I didn't realize how athletic I was. And so I started playing football in eighth grade, wrestled, went undefeated in wrestling, played soccer that year. In eighth grade, I dominated and everything. And when it came to high school, I played, pretty much, one JV game, and I actually took the senior running back's position. I was a 4-year starter on varsity as the running back. And throughout all this, I didn't really, fit in. I was still doing the whole bodybuilding thing. I didn't really know about eating. I was just, going to GNC, taking the ammo pack and drinking Celtec and barely eating, but drinking protein shakes all day. So that was that. And, I did manage to make the college. I lasted 2 weeks of college football because I got there and realized I really didn't like football. I was just kind of good at it, and they switched me from running back to fullback, and I gave it up. I actually remember calling my mom, and I was trying to fake an injury because I didn't want to play anymore. So I was like, Mom, I hurt my foot. Mom was like, if you want to quit, you can quit. And that's how it transitioned to bodybuilding slowly after that,
Okay. So where did you actually grow up then?
Oh, sorry about that. I grew up in Statesville, North Carolina. Okay. I'm the youngest of 6 brothers. So yeah, my brothers always took care of me. So I was like, I'm the runt of the family of my brothers. So Statesville, it's not far from Charlotte, North Carolina. Statesville is like it's a little country, little small town. So the landmarks close by, city-wise, it's like you got Lake Norman, Mooresville, and you have Charlotte. That's where I grew up. Yeah.
Okay. Now, being the youngest of 6 brothers, I mean, I'd say that's kind of unique. What did that experience? I mean, did they kind of pound on you? Did they protect you? I mean, Was there a combination of both? Like what, how did that kind of shape you? I guess I want to ask you, Chris, in terms of like you being an adult and kind of living the life right now. Are there things that experiencing having that many brothers and being the youngest that kind of shaped you today?
Yes and no. Like I know my brothers, my oldest brother babied me. You know, my two oldest brothers babied me. My two brothers closest to me, Alvin and Aaron, they kind of bullied me. They always bullied me. You know, Alvin is a set of twins. Alvin and Calvin are a set of twins. So, you know, when my mom and dad was at work, Alvin and Calvin and Aaron would bully me, harass me, and then I would like literally run to my oldest brother Wade and Corey so they'd protect me. And I would always tell mom on them when they got home. And basically, I would say they protected me a lot. Like nobody could mess with me in school. Even when I got to high school, all the seniors and stuff was afraid of me because of my older brothers. But I would say I was spoiled. I got pretty much everything I wanted, and it took me like getting to college and realizing like, okay, I'm no longer this star athlete, and like the coach didn't even know my name when I got to college. He literally just called me by my number, and it was like it hurt my feelings. I was like, I'm no longer like the golden child anymore, you know. So it was a lot of transitions there, and you know, I had to find myself, especially when I quit football. I didn't know what I wanted to do. I just continued just going to the gym consistently.
Yeah. All right, cool, man. Now, let's before we get into college and transition. Now, you know, having the opportunity to start as a freshman in high school in terms of football. I mean, I don't care if you go to a big school, a medium-sized school, or a small school. Like that's a great opportunity. That's pretty big because most places in our country, high school football is it's big time, right? It's Friday night lights. It's great. So what did that do for you? Did that really build up your confidence? And did it maybe kind of give you a little bit of an arrogance to where you were kind of talking about once you got to college, you weren't the big dog anymore? Just talk about that, because I think a lot of us guys as teenagers kind of maybe go through some of those experiences. So touch on that if you don't mind, Chris.
Well, you know, like it's crazy because I'm gonna go back to middle school because here I was the weird kid that you know played with Pokemon cards and had comic books, and I had one friend in middle school, and I remember I started playing sports and I started getting tons of attention. Like everybody like knew who I was, and I was like, "This is great. Maybe I can get girls now because I'm good at the sport." And my friend always humbled me. He's like, "Oh, you can't get girls just because you're good at something." Realizing now, I was talking about this with him a couple of years ago. I was like, he said that, and I could get girls off being good at something, but he had to keep me on his level at the time. But actually, I got so cocky that I thought I was unbeatable. Like when I got to high school, I was afraid. You know, I was like, JV was nothing. Like that first game, I dominated, and then when I transitioned to varsity, I was going against grown men, and I was quite timid. You know, I was afraid, and so I thought, you know, me getting bigger and more muscular that would help me out. But I was really, I kind of, instead of going the arrogant way in high school, I became really shy. I was really socially awkward, and I stayed to myself primarily. And I guess I went to the gym prior to school. I trained during school, and I actually went to the gym after a football practice and worked out. So I guess I was to myself a lot, and I was confident, but I was still really reserved to myself. Like, say for instance, I can recall like every girl I've ever dated in high school. I couldn't talk to them in person. I would have to text them, and like I would run from them. That's how afraid I was. And then public speaking or anything in the class, like the teacher would call me and I wouldn't speak. I would just sit in the back of class. I was really quiet, and it took me finally getting to like out of college and like working at a bar or getting around drunk people to finally bodybuilding gave me confidence. And working at the bars helped me with my social awkwardness. It still comes out sometimes, but I think for the most part I grew out of that. And of course my first couple years in bodybuilding, when I started winning shows, I started getting quite cocky. But now I'm like, it is what it is, you know.
Okay. So talk about that transition then from high school into college. You know, what was college like? Did you graduate? What did you study? Just unpack that for a little bit, please.
So college was interesting. So I was a dumb jock. I was supposed to have a full ride scholarship at Elon University. I lost my scholarship because I didn't do anything but work out. And I had to go through the junior college route. So all my friends are at NC State Chapel Hill. They're playing Division I football. And here I am at this backwoods junior college. And I'm not even playing the position I was going to have originally a scholarship for. So, of course, I quit after 2 weeks. And The coach was mad because I was like one of the strongest guys on the team. That's what I was known for, was being really strong. I wasn't the fastest, but I was really powerful. I was a power running back. And I just continued working out, and I had my muscular development magazines and stuff. I trained, and I started getting better with eating. And I stayed at that junior college and really focused on my academics for the first time in my life. And it's kind of sad, but I remember my mom fussing at me that, like, you went all through school and you didn't learn anything. So I had to take a whole bunch of remedial courses. I got my GPA up to a 3.9, and I ended up getting an academic scholarship. And I transferred to a Division III school, and I stayed there for a year and a half. And I remember the Division III school really wanted me to play football. But in living in that town of Rocky Mount, North Carolina, I watched my first Olympia for the first time. I knew of the Olympia, but I never watched it. And that's when I saw Phil Heath. And I remember I was like, okay, I'm going to cut out doing all this cardio, and I'm going to try to do this bodybuilding thing. So I cut that out. And I really started focusing on just training and eating McDonald's and a whole bunch of rice and everything. And I remember I put on like 20 pounds. And one day, this older gentleman in the gym approached me, and he asked me if I ever considered about doing bodybuilding. And I was like, yes, I want to, but I don't know how. I don't know where the shows are. And he's like, oh, there's a show in Greensboro, North Carolina this weekend. I'll take you. And I went and watched the show, and I remember I was like, I can do this. I can do this. So I remember I prepped for about a good 8 months. And I came back, and I was just eating everything. And then when I came back to college after that break, they told me I didn't even know the difference between a carbohydrate or a protein at the time. And I'm an exercise science major at the time, and I'm learning this stuff slowly. And one of the older gentlemen in the gym told me to just eat a chicken breast, a sweet potato, and some broccoli. You can eat that 6 times a day. And that's what I did for the entire prep. And I ended up doing the junior North Carolina show, NPC show, for my first show. I ended up winning overall in that. And ever since then, I've been really hooked to that ever since. But I went to school for exercise science. I ended up transferring to UNC Wilmington. And then I ended up moving out of state to Wisconsin. And this is crazy. I'm an environmental safety specialist. And I literally have a semester left in college. And I did switch my major to business management. It's all online. And I haven't finished. And, my boss is, trying to tell me to finish. And I'm like, I'm already in my career. I really don't want to finish, but I need to. It's going to give me a little bump in pay, but my primary focus still to this day is I work just so I can do bodybuilding. And I want to make that my career, but I know I need to take care of my main job as well, because that gives me, the means to be able to compete, so that's my livelihood.
Okay. Now, you said what your career is. Environmental, finish it for me again, please.
Environmental and safety specialist.
Okay, so explain to me and everybody else that has no clue what that is. What is that? What do you do, Chris? And I also want you to talk about, because you've moved a few places and you're currently in Hawaii. So talk about how this career has kind of allowed you to do some traveling and why you're in Hawaii at this point, please, too.
Okay. So after I was transitioning to Wilmington, North Carolina, I was competing in North Carolina. I've done quite a lot of shows in North Carolina, and I actually quit the nuclear plant, Duke Energy, back home, and I was kind of in limbo. I didn't know what I wanted to do, and one of my friends told me, like, "Oh, you got safety background, you got a safety experience, and you have your credentials for that." And my company's hiring, and this company was based out of Hawaii, and they're a government contracting company. So I applied, and we had our Zoom interview. And they gave me the job within 2 days. But the only thing is I would have to move to Wisconsin. I would have to live there for 2 years. So it was a big bump in pay. And I needed it. I needed a new start. So I just packed up and drove across to America and moved to Wisconsin, a state I didn't know anything about. And I didn't compete for those 2 years. I actually was like a normal person. I got a girlfriend. I was normal. I was eating whatever I wanted. And then, the funny thing is I remember that in that relationship, she wanted me to really quit bodybuilding, which I was willing to do. And I got the job opportunity to move to Pearl Harbor, take a job at Pearl Harbor. And I kind of took the job behind her back, and I surprised her with the job, and we ended up breaking up over it. And I moved to Hawaii, and I got back into bodybuilding. And I've been going hard since 2019 till now, ever since then, because that was my spark to get back in shape. And, because it was just that's what I needed. I was in that relationship, but I wasn't really happy. And I was like, okay, I really want to do bodybuilding, Am I leaving out something?
Just explaining like what you actually do.
Oh yeah,
Your actual job. Yeah, you're good. You're good.
What I actually do is basically I'm in the construction field, so basically I inspect job sites. I make sure the guys have PPE, proper protective equipment on, their hard hat glasses and gloves. I actually conduct the safety meetings. I do a lot of talking at work. Like this week, we went over hard hat safety, or the week before we went over electrical safety. I do the briefings. If anybody gets hurt in our company, I actually drive to the job site, interviewed an individual that was in the accident, asked them if they were following the policy, that if they had their PPE on, and then I'll see if they broke policy and I can write them up. And then if they go to MedCorps, any incident, or even if they even get the COVID, it's OSHA reportable. So we got to document that. It hurts our safety record. From the environmental side, I guess one off, anything that goes in the ocean, drains, spills, oil, all that stuff I document, and we got to report that. I check the drains. We got a job down the street. I got to check 7 days a week and make sure there's no pollution getting in the drains. I got to check the biosocks. And it's basically what OSHA does, I guess enforce OSHA regulations. And then I enforce my policy, our company's policy as well. So that's what I do.
Okay. Interesting. Very interesting. Now, before we kind of dive fully into bodybuilding talk, living in Hawaii, I mean, obviously people go there to vacation and things like that, but I mean, what's it been like? I think you said before we turned on the mic that you've been there for about 4 years now. What's it been like living in a vacation destination? Is it everything it's cracked up to be, or, is it a little bit different?
Well, you're talking to a really boring bodybuilder. So, of course, when I first moved there, it was like, oh wow, I'm in paradise. This is where I ever wanted. This is where I always wanted to live. But it is definitely like sometimes I forget. When I'm just driving to different job sites, I'm amazed by the beauty. And it's really nice. Like on my days off, I can go to the beach and relax. It's always sunny. The weather's always great. The culture here is really good. People are really. It's a lot of love in the air. We take care of one another here. The only downfalls are rent's crazy expensive. Groceries are crazy expensive. Like, you go to like Whole Foods, or Whole Foods everywhere is expensive, but you go to Target or anything, milk is probably like $8, if not more. Which I don't drink milk, thankfully. And it's beef, turkey, everything's really expensive. So you can easily go to, like, I was telling my coach, I was like, I'm no longer eating fish, dude. Like, I'm paying $17.99 a pound for this cod, and it lasts me literally a day and a half. And I was spending $70 every other day for it. And then, like, from the amount of food we have to eat, it's just, I stick with like what's on sale right now. I eat chicken and I eat turkey and I eat beef still too, but it's so expensive. But everything, like from the islands, Kauai, Maui, Oahu, Molokai, they're all beautiful. I love it here. It's just, when I fly to the mainland, I'm like, yes, this is great, but I feel safer here in Hawaii. It's just so relaxing here. So I wouldn't trade it for the world right now.
Cool, man. I got to ask you, how much is gas out there per gallon right now?
Shoots. Luckily, I don't have to worry about that because I have a gas card.
Oh, nice. That's a perk of your environmental job, huh?
Yes, but it is expensive. Like, I know my personal car, when I do have to fill it up, it takes premium. It's about $5.93 or maybe $6 a gallon. Okay. So it's a little expensive. So, yeah. But luckily, everything. Remember, I'm a boring bodybuilder. Everything I do is within like a 10-mile radius. I don't do crap. Yeah. So I just go to the gym, go to the grocery store, go to work, go back home.
Nice.
So,
yep. Love it, man. Okay. So we've kind of lightly touched on a little bit of bodybuilding, but it's go time now. This is the time that all of us like. We like to really kind of just dig into the nitty gritty in terms of bodybuilding. So now I want to kind of just get the full picture of, it sounds like in college, that's when you really transition into more, bodybuilding training. And then when you were in those college years, your early 20s, that's when you first competed in North Carolina. Am I correct in all that?
Yes.
Okay. So why don't you talk about that first competition in North Carolina? Did you enjoy it? What was that first prep like? And then just unpack a little bit more of some of the competitions that you've done up to this point. I believe last year you did USA's. Is that correct? Okay.
Correct, yeah.
So And how many shows total have you competed in up to this point, Chris?
I would say about six.
Okay,
Six.
so if you can just start at that first one and just kind of touch on some of the highlights of those competitions up to last year's USA's, why don't you just unpack that history for us, please?
Okay. So I did my first show, I believe it was 2012. I did North Carolina State's junior division class, and it was great because that prep was easy. You know, I wasn't really measuring my foods. It was fun. You know, I'm just now getting back to being bodybuilding, being fun again. But I was just ate 6 meals a day. I didn't weigh anything. I did that first show. It was great. Like I remember when I won the show, it was like I felt unreal, and I remember how happy I was. And then like 2 weeks after that, I did the Charlotte Cup, and I did the open class for the first time as a light heavyweight. The junior show, I was actually a heavyweight. I don't remember how they did the junior division, but I think they just put everybody in one class. And the 2 weeks afterwards, I did the Charlotte show. I actually placed third. I almost qualified for nationals, which I was not ready for nationals at that time. And I remember I was still living in Rocky Mount, and I actually transferred schools to UNC Wilmington, and moved to Wilmington Beach Town. And bodybuilding was huge there at the time, which now has kind of died down, and other divisions are dominating. But I remember I moved there. I actually got approached after the show in Charlotte by one of the judges, and she told me I had a lot of potential. And her name was Stacy Kalari, and she's a retired IFBB Pro bodybuilder. And she ended up becoming my coach. Funny thing is, when I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, I started training at Gold's, which is no longer there. It's a different gym. She was in the gym that day when my first day there, and she became my coach. And I remember I started training with her, and she did my diet, and I actually started weighing my foods. She started training me, and I remember I started questioning why I wanted to do this because it was so hard. You know, I remember I was feeling like crap all the time. Everything. I was like, do I got what it takes to do this? You know, like, and in my head, I'm like, every time I get to a really high level in anything I do, I've been quitting lately. I quit football. Am I going to quit this now too? So I got to the point when I prepped with her, I couldn't make it to the diet. I would always cheat. I would always crack like 4 weeks out. So I didn't do a show when I worked for her. I met another pro. She moved to Costa Rica. She retired, moved to Costa Rica. I met my second coach, Chris Sicardo. He was an IFBB Pro from Long Island. I prepped with him, and same thing. I did North Carolina States in 2013, and I cheated like crazy. I put on crazy amount of size, ended up placing 6th place. Literally 4 weeks out from the show, I just cracked, and I went and ate a whole bunch of McDonald's and drank like a half a gallon of milk. And this is what I did, like honestly, with this coach from 2013 all the way to 2015, and then 2016 I prepped with him again, and same thing. I went crazy with. I didn't even do a show in 2016 because I remember he pulled me out of the show 3 weeks out because I was abusing Splenda and Crystal Light. I was literally taking the packets and drinking the packets because I just couldn't handle it, you know. And so I finally made a move and switched to a different coach in 2017. And it looks like I'm jumping coaches a lot, but I'm still trying to find my groove in the sport. And I started prepping with a coach. His name was Justin. He was a pretty good coach. Actually went really smooth. I got ready for the 2017 Grand Prix Championships in South Carolina. I was a heavyweight, and I remember I won the overall at that show. Wasn't a lot of people in the show. First time I ever had striated glutes on stage. Everything was great, you know. And then 3 weeks afterwards, I finally did my first national show, Miami Nationals. I was overly confident. Went into that show. I remember I saw my old coach prior to doing that show. And he's like, how much cardio are you doing? I was like, I'm doing 20 minutes of cardio a day. And he told me straight up, you're going to get your ass kicked at Nationals. And I got really mad and I walked away from him. He was right. I went there. There was 41 guys in my class. I was a light heavyweight. Got 15th place. Basically, they stopped judging after 15th place. So I got second to last. And I hurt my feelings. So I was like, am I done with bodybuilding now? And that's when I transitioned, ended up moving to Wisconsin.
Okay.
Or it's somewhere around there. I moved to Wisconsin and I took a break from bodybuilding. And sorry about that.
Work's calling, man.
Yeah, I'll call him back. Basically, yeah, like I moved to Wisconsin. I took a break, and I was like, I don't know if I'm good enough. I wasn't cut out for it mentally. Mm-hmm. And once I lived in Wisconsin and I was like normal for a while in a relationship and I transitioned to Hawaii. I remember I got here and, I was picking up bad habits. I was drinking like all the time. I picked it up from Wisconsin, started drinking a lot and moved here, got back in the gym. I met one of my good friends, Mike Kawasaki. He's one of the top coaches here. And I remember seeing him and he would always say really positive things to me. And I remember I was telling him, I want to do the show. I want to do a show. And he was telling me, you got to stop that drinking. And I remember I started training with a big group of guys here and they got me back into it. And I actually got ready for the Aloha Muscle in 2019, 6 weeks. And I won overall there. And I guess started feeling it again. And I was like, I'm going to do the Japan Pro. And, that's Japan's 6-hour flight from here. So I did that and still working with Justin at the time. And, ended up placing top 5. And I remember Iris Kyle came up to me after the show and she was telling me I needed to get harder. I was just soft. And, a lot of people at the show, I met Rich Gaspari and were telling me if I was just a little bit harder, I could have won overall at the show. And I was like, okay, maybe I can be good at this thing. And then shortly afterwards, I came back home, went and watched the Sean Ray Classic here. And Rich Gaspari and his business partner convinced me to do the Arnold Classic in 2020, right before COVID. And I actually did the Arnold Classic 2020. And here, I still haven't booked crazy conditioning. I'm still working with Justin. And, I still I haven't really leveled up yet, muscularity wise or conditioning wise. And I placed second at the Arnold Classic. COVID happened, took that time off. I actually wanted to try something new. I started watching the podcast of Fuad and them, and I saw Patrick Tuor on there, and he really sparked my interest. And reached out to Patrick, and we started working together. Me and Patrick, Justin parted ways, and we got ready. We was just gonna get ready. We had all season, my first all season I ever had. Stay consistent. I put on a crazy amount of muscle tissue, and we prepped for USA's, and I put so much muscle tissue on. And I landed a sponsorship with Hostile at the time. I got ready for USA's, and it was like a lot of uncertainty was coming in that prep because it's like, okay, last time I did a national show on the mainland was like Miami Nationals where I got 15th place, and I remember going into the weigh-ins, and they gave me my number was 72, and that's like, oh crap, it's the same number I had from 2017 where I placed 15th. Ended up doing the show, got first call out, so they put me dead center. I just needed to be a little bit harder, and I ended up placing 4th place, which was a big step. I was disappointed, but yeah. And then going into this year, a lot of chaos. This has been a very stressful year for me. End of last year, I was prepping. I was going to do USA's again. In the last year, I had some family issue. My brother passed away, and it kind of gets threw a wrench in my plans. And I remember I was just getting a deep depression, stopped training, and really started drinking a lot. And I was, me and Patrick. I got to thank Patrick. We're no longer working together, but he kept me into it because I really wanted to quit bodybuilding. I was drinking so much. He actually helped me out a lot. When I was trying to get back into it, when I started prepping for nationals, he sent me this long voicemail. Pretty much it's like a lecture, like a dad, but it's telling me that I'm feeling sorry for myself, and if I really wanted to do this, I would do it, and I got to stop feeling sorry for myself. And actually, we parted ways. We still keep in contact. I'm working with Dave Palumbo now, and things have been going really smooth with Dave so far. And what are we 5 weeks out from nationals? So yeah, looking to make some noise at nationals this year. And USA's last year, I weighed in at 221. Right now, I weighed in this morning at 221, which is a little crazy, and I'm way ahead of schedule. So yeah, I know I just threw a lot out there. I know you probably got some questions to ask. I guess start rambling. So
that's good. That's great, man. You did exactly what I kind of wanted, just unpacking that competition history. Now, I do have some things I want to pull out. So I want to kind of get into the mental side of bodybuilding for you, especially back in the beginning, because you mentioned binging on your diets kind of in the beginning and all this, and then you also said something like once you kind of started getting to a higher level, it happened in football, you would quit and things like that. So have you been able to break through kind of that mental barrier or that mental lock? And if so, where was that turning point, and kind of how did you break through that? Because bodybuilding is a mental game, but also life is a mental game. I truly believe that it all starts right here in every aspect of this experience that we call life on earth, right? So talk about that, like, and as you've broken through that mental barrier, like, what do you feel like, Chris, was the mental barrier? What was that mental lock for you?
Honestly, it's hard to say. Like, I remember in 2016, I remember I was, what's the definition of being crazy? Like doing the same thing consistently, expecting a different result. Basically, I was doing the same thing every year. I was working with the same coach, doing the same thing, doing the same habits. And I was like, okay, I guess when I was getting ready for that 2017 prep, I literally had to say to myself, like, okay, what are you going to do? Are you really going to do this? Do you really want to be a bodybuilder? And I just had to suck it up. And I did it, and I remember when I did that show and I finally put everything in it. I didn't cut corners. The feeling of winning the overall, and I'm like, okay, I can do this. I think me winning that show and giving that show 100%, it helped me get through. But, just like life, I got hit a little bit, and with the Nationals, got knocked right back down. And I got knocked way down. And, going through that little adversity, it was a lot of crap prior to that. But going through that and stepping away from 2 years, I think I really matured. I learned how to be a lot more patient. When I was in my early 20s, I always wanted to be the biggest, and I wanted to accelerate things. And I thought by eating more food was to help me stay full, not knowing that the leaner and the more conditioned you are make you look bigger than being full and unconditional stage. But the mental aspect for me now is like, why cheat when you got a goal of trying to win something? Like this year, like I know I've been doing it for going on 10 years now. Dieting for me is second nature. Like I don't have my cravings anymore, and I guess I know like my goals are strong enough for me not to cheat. Like I wake up every morning excited about doing my cardio, getting that meal in, because this is what I'm passionate about. I love bodybuilding. I literally watch podcasts. I like training. I like the nutrition aspect of it. I like hearing about all different upcoming athletes. So me being possibly having the opportunity to be able to compete with the best, it just excites me so much more. So that's what helped me, I think, finally get to this level of maturity and just knowing what my goals are, the reasons behind them, why I'm doing it. That's what keeps me focused. I don't know if that answered your question. Kind of.
Yeah, no, it did. I just wanted to touch on the mental side and how you kind of broke through some of those mental struggles in the beginning of bodybuilding. So now I want to ask you about Patrick Tuor, because he's obviously an elite coach, and it sounds like he kind of helped you in some ways in terms of maybe just taking another step, or another level up in terms of bodybuilding. So talk about how Patrick kind of maybe helped you, because it sounds like you put on quite a bit of size when you started working with him. So talk about just how Patrick has kind of helped you level up. I know you're not working with him anymore, but what was that experience like? How did he help you? How did you put on all that size? Did he adjust your training? Just get into that for a quick minute.
Oh, it was something I've never done before. The previous years of coaches I worked with always deprived me of foods and just barely feed me, and like that's all I knew. And when I worked with Patrick, he sent me a plan, and it was so detailed. It was like almost 7 meals, and it's like I remember I thought I had a big appetite, but I remember struggling. I was eating 5 meals, and I would message Patrick, and he's like, "You gotta get these meals in. If you want to be a top pro or a top athlete, you got to get these meals in." Each meal literally had the measurements, what supplements I needed to take. And I guess I never had anything this detailed. And the training was catered to my nutrition. And the type of coach Patrick is, he stays on top of you. He checks in with you on a weekly, sometimes daily, just to see how you're doing mentally. And for me, I'm a very emotional guy, so I doubt myself a lot. And Patrick really taught me how to really think like a champion and how to be confident. Like he wouldn't just blow smoke up my class or anything. He would be real with me, but he said, you can do this if you do X, Y, Z. But training wise, I used to train for a lot of volume and moderate weight. With Patrick, my first sets are always pretty much 95% of my max. And then I do a sequence afterwards, or like a cluster set. And then like it enabled me to hit my muscles, it just enabled my strength to go up crazy amounts. And with me training that heavy with that amount of food, I just put on crazy amounts of muscle. And while I got to like 260, I was still lean. And it was to the point when I didn't think I was going to be a heavyweight. I remember being like a few days out from USA's last year. I was like 231, and it was like 2 days out. And I'm like, am I going to make this? And Patrick was great. Like, he lives in Switzerland, and he still was like, he would call me. The time zone difference would suck. Patrick gets really excited. Like, I sent him a check-in one day. He calls me at like 4 o'clock in the morning. Can you eat more food? I'm like, what do you mean? He's like, you look like you're 4 weeks out. Can you eat more food? I'm like, sure. And then he gets, Patrick loves bodybuilding. He just wanted to talk about bodybuilding. Just like last year, we spoke on the phone a little bit after the Olympia, and we were talking about the Olympia. So that's one thing I really like. Patrick was like a father figure. He's really, really friendly, very personable, and I like the fact that I like my coaches being just as passionate about bodybuilding just like I am.
So you said you're currently working with Dave Palumbo. Why did you, out of all the coaches out there, why did you decide to go with Dave? And he's known for kind of like the keto type style diet and prepping people. So why Dave? And then how are some of his practices in terms of coaching and what he has you doing a little bit different than Patrick?
Okay, now like I was gonna do my own thing at first after the prep because I still got all Patrick's plans and I got all the notes from my previous coaches, and I've prepped myself before and I know what to do. I start second guessing myself 4 weeks out, and typically I will over diet myself before I prep myself. But I was looking, and I reached out. I spoke to Chris Aceto, and I just wanted to fill people out. Chris Aceto was really cool. He called me. He spoke on the phone. Really great guy. I was gonna use Chris at first, and I've been watching RX Muscle and Muscle in the Morning for years, and I was like, maybe I was showing my friend that was looking for a coach, different coaches, and I was like, oh, Dave popped up, and I saw his plans, and I was like, oh, he's a moderate price. Maybe I need to call this guy, and I set up like a consultation with him. I spoke with him about an hour on the phone, and we hit it off. And I was telling him what I was having, with my body, because my body was not responding to anything I was doing. Probably because I was drinking a lot and I was just crazy depressed. I was dealing with a lot of stress, and I still, overcoming that loss of my brother. I was just not, doing what I needed to do necessarily, to be able to compete as a bodybuilder, because it was just too much stress. I would eat food and like sleep all day, and my training was horrible because, when you're not there mentally, your body sometimes will not respond to whatever you're doing to it. So I remember that conversation went really good with Dave, and we started working together. And I remember the first couple of weeks, my body started to transform. The differences are like, it's way less food. I remember 2 weeks in with Dave, he told me to get McDonald's. And I was like, McDonald's? And I'm against cheat meals, but I'm looking at them as like they're program meals, so they're refeed meals. They're not necessarily cheat meals. Working with Patrick for over a year and a half, we had not one cheat meal. And I like that, because that made me feel like I was a hardcore bodybuilder. And Dave, he's available all the time, but it's not like he doesn't like call you and text you, like check in on you like Patrick, So it's a different type of coaching. And the keto days, I was worried about those because I'm a zero carb today, and I'm like, okay, can I handle this? Because I'm used to eating like upwards, sometimes, the rice cakes and up to 1,000 carbs with Patrick, and now I'm eating like on my high carb days, it's 200 grams of carbs, And with Patrick, I have 20 minutes of cardio, or I have no cardio. Dave, I'm doing cardio every day now, but the difference is my metabolism is firing so fast. I think we got up to like 3 burgers one week. And I go to like Cheesecake Factory, or I go to Chili's or whatever is around. I go make a burger and I get that. So sometimes I don't feel like I'm dieting. Surprisingly, my energy levels are really good. Last year, I started feeling like crap around 4 weeks out. Right now, it fluctuates. So I feel good now, but this is my second cup of coffee, and I got 8 hours of work to go through afterwards. So I'm sure I'm gonna feel like crap later once I'm training chest and shoulders. But yeah, so far everything's going good with Dave.
Okay. I want to ask you, Chris, you mentioned the passing of, your brother and stuff, and that kind of threw you into a deep depression and started drinking. All of us obviously have struggles and go through different things in life. So I don't necessarily want to get into the details of that because it's personal and stuff. But anybody that's kind of going through a really tough situation right now that's watching or listening to this, can you kind of give us maybe some words of wisdom or some advice in terms of how can we kind of work through maybe some of those difficulties that we're going through personally right now, like you did earlier this year?
Well, the thing is, like I say, it's good to get help. I've been speaking to a therapist, and I remember like at first I didn't, even my lady, at the time, she was trying to help me, and I wasn't taking it. I was just feeling so sorry for myself, and just it was a combination of losing my brother and my body not responding to anything I did do. And I'm like, me personally, I know, if my body's not looking a certain way and it's not responding, I'm depressed over that already. Then me losing my brother, I just felt hopeless. I got to the point where I was drinking so much, which is a combination of, that makes things way worse. So I would advise you not to drink and staying busy. One thing bodybuilding gives me is structure. So having a schedule and you sticking to staying busy and doing that, having something to work towards will keep your mind from wandering and going in those dark places. And just staying around, your friends and family, talking to somebody, don't do what I did. Stay to yourself and isolate yourself and drink. All that stuff's just, a combination to put you in an even worse situation. It's kind of like you keep doing that. You want more of that, and it's hard to get out of it. So it's like I literally, this little side thing is I remember my lady at the time, she told me, do I need to leave you so you can get your ass in gear? And that's what she did. She left me, and like everything started falling into place. So I'm more motivated. I'm able to focus and handle my business because I just had so much to sort out in my mind that, just having that there was just like another hindrance on me. I was just not taking care of my own problems. So I would say good structure, being scheduled and staying busy and reaching out to people.
So going into nationals here in I think it's about 4 or 5 weeks. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. So what is your personal goal? What would you like to accomplish on the national stage this year in 2022?
My goal is to win my class and be able to compete for the overall at nationals. I think I got a good chance of doing so. I know it's some freaky super heavyweights, and I think it's gonna be the same top 5 from USA's, but we're just gonna flip flop, places. I see that it's the same names between Walter. You got Sid. You got Brandon. I know I'm missing out. There's a couple guys I'm missing out. I'm sorry about that. I just can't think of everybody. Then super heavyweights, you got Big Brian. You got Big Elliott. There's some big names in there. Mm-hmm. And I know one of the guys you just interviewed. He looked like he put on a lot of size. Can't think of his name, but I see him. He posts a lot of updates on Instagram too. So it's gonna be very competitive. Mm-hmm. But I'll say winning my class and possibly battling out for that overall title. That's my goals.
Cool. So. What's your long-term competitive bodybuilding goal, Chris?
I would say my 3 to 5 year goal is to win the Arnold Classic and somehow getting that top 10 at the Olympia in the open class one of these days. If I stay consistent, I think it's very achievable. So I don't think I ever win Olympia, but I think I could be an Olympian.
Okay. So. Who are some guys that are on the current IFBB circuit that you would love to compete against on that IFBB stage in the future if that's in the plans for you?
Oh, shoots. This is a good question. I would say top 5. I would say Samson Dowda, Brett Wilkin, Nathan Diashi. Did I say William Bonac? Bonac.
Yeah. You just did.
Yeah, and shoots. Hunter Labrada. I'm in the name of the top 10 like already. Like it's a lot.
Yeah, you're gonna have to make it to that Olympia stage to compete against those beasts, man, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I have high hopes, it's like it's good to aim high. So
Yeah.
yeah.
What it looks like from your Instagram, you've got a pretty legit bodybuilding friendly gym that you're training at. What's the name of the gym and what's the environment like at that gym?
Oh, my gym was awesome. It's Iron Hawaiian Fitness. The owner is really cool. He could have went pro, and he had an injury the year right before he was going to go pro. But it's really bodybuilding friendly. They let me bring my dog, and I pretty much just let my dog loose, and it's hardcore. And sometimes I'm there after hours, even when they're closed. I train. Mark and Tina, they're like my island parents, the owners. So they have everything. Like the dumbbells go up to 200 pounds. They have everything, like the prom. Every week, Mark is putting something new in the gym, and we're running out of space in the gym. It has a stage, so it's very conducive for bodybuilding.
Cool.
So there's no AC. It's just old school. I love it.
Yeah.
So yeah.
Is there a pretty big bodybuilding scene out there? I mean, obviously in Hawaii, I know there's different islands and stuff, but is there a pretty big bodybuilding scene out there in Hawaii or not really?
Well, when I first got here before COVID, it was big. We had to battle the islands and whatnot. But pretty much the big show here is the Sean Ray, and it's like bodybuilding everywhere. It's kind of dying down on the regional level. But I see a rise in bikini and the men's physique and classic physique, of course. But our gym, Powerhouse, you got GY. This is like it's quite a few. I would say it's big, and the fitness community here. Like if you lived here, you lived here for any short duration, you'll see that as a very close knit community. We all know everybody. Even on the outer islands, we know everybody. We all know everybody who's competing, who's doing what. All the coaches are pretty close, and they're competitive. So yeah, I would say it's a moderately big bodybuilding scene.
Okay. Talk about being connected with hostile supplements. That's pretty cool.
Oh, that was awesome. Like the guys are really close knit. Fuad's really cool. He's very personable. I was able to message him about anything, and they still reach out to me and talk to me still to this day. And the supplements, second to none. They're really good products. I love their clothing. I do miss being a part of that, but I just needed a break. At the time, I took a break from social media and stepped away from everything. I guess couldn't maintain everything mentally after what I went through with my brother, and I just wanted to get away from social media. But I would love to have the opportunity again to work with those guys. I'll probably reach out to Fuad at the Nationals or something. So yeah, it was great working with them.
So do you have any go-to podcasts that you like to listen to, or what are some of the YouTube channels pertaining to bodybuilding that are your go-tos if you have any?
Of course, the Hostile podcast, Bro Chat. I like watching RX Muscle, and I just got finished watching Heavy Muscle Radio with Chris Aceto, and I watch that every week. I like watching Dennis James podcast with the older school guys. Those guys make me laugh with Milos and those guys. They always make me laugh because they talk about the Chris Kamir. I love those guys. Been watching the one with Xavier from Australia. I like watching his with Brett and Nathan. Those are my go-tos right now. I haven't really picked up anything new. As I'm driving around the island, kind of just watch whatever pops up on YouTube, listen to whatever pops up on YouTube. So yeah.
Awesome, man. All right, Chris, we're going to kind of start wrapping it up, man. I want to ask you, do you have any major gym pet peeves? And if so, what are they?
Oh man, I hate when people stand in front of the dumbbell rack at peak hours, or with the new generation, the kids with the tripods, and they take like 20 or 30 minutes in between their sets and they're playing with their phones. And I'm like asking myself, who's your audience when you look? I can't say this, but I can say this, like when you look very average, I'm like, you haven't even worked out yet and you got a tripod. I guess that's my pet peeves. Playing on your cell phone, hogging all the equipment when you're not actually using the equipment, and standing in everybody's way when it's peak hours. So.
Yeah, we get that a lot on the podcast. The tripod thing seems to be a major gym pet peeve for everybody. All right, so Chris, we're gonna kind of just wrap it up right there. I want to give you the opportunity before I do a quick outro here, and we are officially done. I want to give you the opportunity to give us any final thoughts, any final words that you might have, any shout outs. Give us your Instagram. Once you're done with that, I'll do a quick outro, man, and we'll call that good for today. But platform's yours, man. Anything you want to share in closing us out?
Okay, I would say, you know, whatever you guys aspire to be, or whatever your goals may be, I will always say stay true to that. Stay consistent and always strive to be better. And I'd like to give a shout out to, you know, Patrick Tuor, my good friend, Dave Palumbo, for helping me out this year. And I think that's it. I can't convey my thoughts properly right now. I'm losing my train of thought, you know.
Give us your Instagram.
Oh, it's gonna be Chris_Knox Fit. Let me double check that though.
I think you're right. I think you're right.
Okay. Yeah. Chris_Knox Fit.
Cool. Awesome. All right, man. I want to say thank you, Chris. I know it's like 6:30 in the morning there in Hawaii. It's going on 12:30 here in Iowa. So appreciate you taking some time in early in the morning before you go to work and have a full bodybuilding prep day. I appreciate you taking some time to share your bodybuilding story, your life story, and just kind of chopping it up with us, man. It's greatly appreciated. All right.
Thank you. Thanks, Quinn, for having me. I really appreciate everything.
Yeah, you're welcome, man. And don't be surprised if I reach out to you after nationals, especially if you snag a pro card. I like to kind of get guys on pre and post. So if you hear from me after, don't big time me if you get that pro card. Okay.
I definitely won't do that to you.
All right, man. Thank you so much, Chris. Really appreciate it. All right.
Thank you too. Looking forward to talking again.
All of you who are tuning into this episode of Behind the Muscle podcast, I just want to say thank you so very much. Quickly here, as we wrap up this great talk with Chris today, if you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube and also share this episode with Chris on your Instagram stories. Make sure you tag Chris, tag Behind the Muscle, so that we know that you listened specifically to this episode and found great value in it, in which I know you did. And then finally, I will leave you all with this. Remember, behind the muscle, there's always a story. We'll catch you guys later.
Peace.